so you can get yours ready so we can make a masterpiece together. As always. So right here I have my yarn. I am actually going through my old yarn to see what I can actually get out of it. For this project I eventually would have to go to the yarn store to get some yarn, but again I don't have to spend too much. I might probably spend like getting 3 or 4 instead of getting a bunch of it for an actual project. So that's the goal for this month. For now, that's the goal for now, to just go through my yarn and see what I can get out of it. So we are using this, guys. When I said this yarn is so beautiful, I've already used this yarn, by the way. This was the same yarn that I used to make my distressed crochet open shell top, the off the shoulder top. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm gonna link it somewhere around. The pattern is also available on my Etsy store and on my website if you want to shop the pattern for yourself. The person who did this ate it up. I love it. I think I had like 3 of these left, so I had 3 balls, 3.5 actually. Again, I have 3.5 left, so I decided to make a corset dress, something like that. I'm not sure what this is going to eventually turn out to be, but that's what I have in mind. Again, if I don't mix this up at the very end, maybe I will not, but yeah, that's what we have in mind. Oh, I could actually make a play suit or a jumpsuit. I don't know, guys. Whatever you guys see is what you guys see. But the next material also is going to be a medium weight yarn. This is the yarn that I usually use, and for some reason I never really make items in white, except it's actually a custom order. But in this video I'm going to be using this bunch of leftover white yarn that I have. They are from 2 different brands, which means one is a bit more whiter compared to the other one, so I would eventually have to decide what brand I'm going to go for. So when I decide to go buy the remaining yarn, then I'm gonna go with that brand. The materials that I'm using, I'm currently using a 3mm, but I think I will switch up later onto a 5mm or 4mm, but I'll let you guys know while I'm editing this video so you guys can know exactly what I used. You're obviously going to need some measurement tape to take few measurements, and you're going to need a scissors, of course, into measurement. So for the first part of this video, we are going to be working on the corset part. For the corset part, I just wanted to tell you guys what you'd actually need the measurement, and I think I'm just going to take the measurement step by step before I bombard you guys with all the information. So we're going to start from the center, and then we're going to work our way down, and then we come all the way up. So we're going to take the measurement as well, step by step. When we finish the corset, we're going to take the measurement for the lower part, and then afterwards the measurement for the upper part, just so everything comes right after the other one, and so you guys don't have to go back and forth to look for these informations. So back to the very beginning, we are going to start with the corset, which means we are going to start with the waist. Yes, we're going to start with our waist. So you're going to take your waist measurement just the same way you take your waist measurement for whatever you're taking, and then whatever amount you get is what you're going to divide by 3. You're going to divide this by 3 because the pattern, the waist corset part, is going to be worked by 3 different panel. So we have 2 back panel and 1 front panel. So the easiest way I did divide mine in this case was my waist measurement is actually 28 inches. What I did was I did 9 inches for the one back panel, 9 inches for the other 9 back panel, which gives me a total of 18 inches, and then right after I have 10 more inches to add for me to have a total of 28 inches. I'm going to give you guys another example just in case. Let's say for example your waist measurement is 32, you are going to do about 12 inches for the back, 12 inches for the opposite back, which makes it a total of 24 inches, and then you're going to do 9 inches for the front. If you're making a bigger size, you probably would have to adjust with the front panel. I don't know how I can divide this, but if you get confused along the way, let me know down below what your waist measurement is and I can do the division for you. But now I cannot just think how to do that. But again, like I said, you're going to divide that measurement into 2. You want to make sure that the front panel is at least 1 inches to 2 inches wider than your back panel when it's separate, right? Because together your back panel is obviously going to be wider, which is going to help the back panel to come all the way to the side of your body, and it just doesn't stop at the back. Hope you guys understand exactly what I'm saying. But let's go to the table and start working on the back panel. For reference, I'm using a lightweight yarn. The yarn that I'm using is a lightweight yarn, and it's a cotton yarn, which means the stretch is limited. I don't think it's an issue for me, but if it is for you, then stick to a stretchy yarn, which is acrylic. Acrylic is mostly stretchy when you work in the after crochet stitch, but then cotton yarn does not have a lot of room when it comes to the stretchiness of it. To get started, I'm going to go ahead and make a slip knot. And I'm going to chain a total of 36. So this is the length of the corset. So if you want yours to be longer, then you can do so, but I think this is a perfect length. So after chaining 36, you're going to go into the second chain with the after crochet stitch. And to do after crochet stitch, you're going to yarn over, go into the second chain. You're going to grab the yarn, pull through. You have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops. Again, yarn over, insert your crochet hook into the next stitch, pull through. You have 3 loops on your crochet hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops. So you're going to repeat 1 after crochet until you get to the very end of the row. So at the very end, I shall have a total of 35 after crochet, because the chain 1 I did for 36 was a turning chain and not an actual stitch. So this is what your work should look like after your first row. So we are going to go ahead and get started with row 2, and to do that, you're going to chain 1 and turn. And this time around, we are going to work in the back loop. Again, like I mentioned, I'm using a cotton yarn, so there is a lot of stretch with the yarn, but then if you're using acrylic yarn, then that's perfect. So I'm going to yarn over and go into this loop. I'm going to go into the back loop. So usually you have 2 loops where you would go into for you to make a stitch, but because we're doing after crochet in the back loop, that means we're going into the loop at the back. So you're going to yarn over and go into that back loop, and you're just going to repeat 1 after crochet into that very first stitch. Again, you're going to yarn over, go into the next back loop of that stitch, and you're going to repeat 1 after crochet. And this is what you're going to repeat until you get to the end of the row. And at the end of row 2, you're going to chain 1 and repeat this until you have the half of your back measurement, right? It's exactly what I mentioned. So I'm going to just repeat this until I have a total of 9 inches. And of course, because I need 2 of these, I'm going to do the same thing until I have the opposite back panel as well. So to get started with the front panel of the corset, you're going to go ahead and make a slip knot again, and you're going to chain a total of 36 as well. And if you chained, whatever amount you chained is what you're going to chain. So I chained 36, so I'm just going to go ahead and chain a total of 36. After chaining 36, I'm going to do the same thing I did for the back panel, which is going into that second stitch with the after crochet and repeat 1 after crochet until I get to the very end. So again, this is what it looks like after the first row. For row 2, we are going to do something a bit different. You're going to chain 1 and turn, and right into this very first stitch, you're going to go with after crochet stitch into the back loop. And because this is an increased row, you're going to go ahead and insert an additional 1 double crochet all into that very first stitch. So you basically have 2 double crochets at the very beginning. From here on, you're going to yarn over and repeat 1 after double crochet until you get to the very top of this row. Remember, you can use a stitch marker to mark this edge. but I think I'm just going to use this string to know that whenever I am coming to this edge, I'm going to increase. Whenever I'm leaving this edge, I'm also going to increase. So I'm just going to repeat 1 half double crochet just like this until I get to the very end of the row. So for row 3, you're going to chain 1 and turn into this very first stitch. You're going to go with a half double crochet stitch, and because we are not increasing on the side, you're not going to go into that same stitch with another stitch. You're just going to repeat 1 half double crochet until you get to the very end, and then don't forget to insert 1 more half double crochet right into this very last stitch. So instead of 1, you're going to go ahead and do 2, because you're increasing on every row, but you're increasing just on one side of the pattern. So I'm going to repeat this increase pattern for a total of 4.5 inches, because my front panel is a total of 9 inches together. So after the 4.5 inches, I'm just going to come back and show you guys what the next step is. So right after your first set of increase, you're going to go ahead and do the same amount of rows you did, but this time around we are going to go ahead and decrease. So with decreasing, you're going to go ahead and decrease the 2 last stitches together. So you're going to reduce a stitch. Hope you guys understand what I mean. So the same amount you used for increasing is the same amount of rows you're going to do for decreasing, and you're going to do that on the same side. So you're going to yarn over, go into the second to last stitch, grab the yarn, and when you have 3 loops, you're going to go directly into the last stitch, grab the yarn. I think you should have 4 loops. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, because we're doing an half double crochet stitch. And again, like I said, you're going to go ahead and turn. You're not chaining anything, because that is the side, the exact place where you're going to be decreasing. So you don't have to chain anything at that very end, but you're just going to turn, and you're going to skip a stitch, and you're going to repeat that until you get to the very end. Again, the same amount of rows you did for increasing. If you did 20, you're going to do 20 more rows of decreasing, but then again, you're decreasing on just one side of the panel. So right there, you're just going to skip that very first stitch, and you're going to go into the next stitch with a half double crochet stitch, and you're just going to repeat 1 half double crochet until you get to the very end. And that is what I'm going to do, and I'll see you guys when I have mine complete. Guys, good morning. It's been too old day actually, but I have an update for you guys, so let me grab it. So now that I have my 2 back panel complete, my front panel complete, we are going to attach these 2 together. Super simple. So you're going to basically attach one of the back panel to one side of the front panel. Again, this is how the decreasing goes for the panel. Because I did use a cotton yarn, the tension is a bit different if you use acrylic yarn. It's going to be a bit more looser, but you can literally see the increasing and decreasing that is going on at the front panel. So I'm just going to grab one end of the back panel, and I'm going to attach this to one edge of the front panel, grab the other side of the back panel, the opposite back panel, and I'm going to attach this to the other side. They should actually align, because at the end of the front panel, after the decreasing, you should have the same amount of chains you had at the very beginning, which was 35 chains, and that's the same amount of chains we had for the back panels as well. So you should easily be able to attach these 2 together. So I'm going to do that with a single crochet. You can use a needle, you can use a slip stitch, just the same way I always show you guys how to do that, and then I'm going to come back and show you guys what the next step is. Hey guys, so this is what it looks like when you attach the 2 back panel to the front panel. Again, you want to make sure that you have the seam on the same side. So when you turn this to the opposite end, this is going to be without the seam. So now we're going to start working on the lower part. Afterwards, we're going to come up and work on the upper part of this pattern. But again, just so you know, you should be able to just fold this, and then there should be a gap, because this is where we're going to do the lace up at the very end of the panel. So now we're going to start working on the lower part of this pattern in a bit. So for the base, I'm going to still use this yarn, which I'll later on switch to the other yarn that we will be using as well. And also, still with my 3mm, I'm just going to grab the yarn and I'm going to attach this to one side of the pattern. After the attachment, I did go ahead and chain a total of 20. The reason why I did chain extra chain is because my waist measurement itself is smaller than my lower belly part, which is where the corset is going to start, which is basically where we're working at currently. So if I had leave the entire thing at that same measurement, it would have been a little bit too tight about around my lower waist up until my hips. And because we are going to go for a very fluid edge, you're going to go ahead and chain 20. So this is just me chaining 20, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So from here on, I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch right into this back panel. So making sure my chain is straight, because I'm going to go back into that chain with double crochet row. I'm just going to grab the back panel and I'm going to go into that first available space and slip stitch right into that. So now we have this going on up the panel, right? So if you take the measurement around this edge, it should be your exact waist measurement right now. So now we're going to start with the first panel, and to do that I'm just going to chain one with the first row actually, and this is going to be a base row for this actual lower part of the layer. So for now I'm just going to go into this first available space with a single crochet, and just going to make sure I go into every available space with one single crochet. Again, like I mentioned, this is a base, so you're just going to carefully go into every available space. You are not increasing and at the same time you're not decreasing, so you want to make sure there are no excess gap around your stitches, but at the same time you're not inserting two single crochet into one available space. And this is what I'm going to do all around. So basically go all around, and when I get to the chain I'm just going to insert one single crochet into each chain, and I'll see you guys at the very end. Right here I'm coming to the end. I'm just going to go into that very first stitch again, and I'm going to slip stitch and end off this base row. I'm going to cut off the yarn right after because we are going to be switching to the next yarn. So I'm just going to chain one and cut off this. Seal it right there. So now we have the base. We have the base that we are going to work with. The next row is going to be an increase row because obviously it's a little bit flare at the very end, right? So I'm just going to go into the yarn. Let's see if I can be lucky enough to find the centerpiece, because it's usually just locked at this point. Yes, I found it. So I'm just going to take this yarn and I'm going to attach that to this side where I literally just ended off the row, and I'm going to attach this again with a secure knot. And still with the 3mm, I'm going to go ahead and grab the yarn, chain one, and into that very first stitch I'm going to go with 3 double crochets. So into that first stitch I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3 double crochets. And of course it's going to look a little bit too tight, but that's because of the increase. And from there on I'm going to go into the next single crochet stitch with 3 double crochets, right there. Into the next stitch I'm going to go with just 2 double crochets. Into the next I'm going to go with 2 double crochets instead of 3. So we have 3 double crochets into the first stitch, 3 double crochets into the second, 2 into the third, 2 into the fourth, and then you're going to go into the fifth with 3. So you're basically alternating between 3 double crochets into the first 2 stitches and then 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches for the entire row. So that is what I'm going to do, and that is going to be the very first and the last increase pattern. So I'm just going to repeat that, and I'll see you guys at the very end. So I mean, like, repeat all around the chain, all around the entire body of this panel, and then I'll see you guys when I have that first row complete. Hey guys, so I'm at the end of the row. To end of the row, I'm just going to go right above the previous row with my next row. So at this point I should actually switch my crochet row from a 3mm to a 4, just so I want more fluffiness so the stitches can get more bigger as well. So I'm going to do that. So with my 4mm, I'm just going to go right above the previous row with my next row. You can slip stitch if you want to, but if you've seen a few of my tutorials, you know I never do that. So I'm just going to go right above the previous row with the next row, and this next row is just going to be a double crochet row. And this is where you're just going to go ahead and do 1 double crochet into every row until you get to the very end. When you get to the end, you're going to go right above that row again with another double crochet row. Hey guys, so I finished my first yarn of the first white yarn, the first ball, and I think I did about 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 rows. And now I'm just going to switch to the next yarn. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like after my first yarn. I don't know how many I'm going to use for me to have this to have a decent length, but I'm just going to repeat that now, and we'll see. It still looks a bit funny. The back is open, the layers are just not giving at this point because obviously the length is not working yet. But I'm going to repeat my second and my third yarn, and then I'll see you guys when I have a decent length, so I can put this one and see what the length, because I want it to be short but I don't want it to be super short. So for now, this is what we are going on. Hey guys, so I wanted to come on and give you guys an update. It's been a couple of days and I think I have my desired length. I decided to try it on this morning and it was short, so I did go ahead and add a few more inches to it, because again, I want it to be short but I don't want it to be super short. So this is what we have. I'm currently on my 4th. Am I on my 4th? Yes, I'm currently on the 4th ball. And I have 30 rows, so I'm going to keep it at this length because there's something else I want to do at the very end with this yarn, just so I can incorporate this multicolor yarn at the very end of the pattern as well. So for now, I think I have a decent length. I did a total of 30 rows, and I'm at the fourth ball, and I haven't finished it yet. I have this amount left, so now I'm just going to go to the table and start incorporating this yarn to the lower part. Hey guys, like I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and just grab the yarn again, and I'm going to go and do like a shell row at the very end. I wanted to do like 5 rows of double crochet, but I don't think I like the way that will turn out, so I'm just going to settle for doing a shell row. But basically, you're just going to find where you started with your row, and you're going to work your way up until one edge. So because I usually work in rounds and I don't slip stitch into any stitch, whenever I want to do anything at the very end of that particular stitch, I make sure I end off my row at one side. So I'm just going to take off this few stitches and get to the side before I switch to the different yarn. And after that, I'm going to go into this next stitch with a single crochet and into the next with a slip stitch to end off the row with the white yarn. And right where I did end off with a slip stitch, I'm going to go ahead and grab the next yarn and attach with a secure knot. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and chain 6 And this chain 6 is basically a double crochet and a chain 3, and then I'm going to go right into that same space with a double crochet. So right now I have my first V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 3, double crochet. From there on, I'm going to go ahead and chain 3, skip 6 stitches, 1 2 3 4 5, sorry, I'm going to skip 5, and into the 6th I'm going to go with a double crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet, all into that same stitch. This is what you should have. From here on, you're going to chain 3, skip 5, and into the 6th you're going to go with a V-stitch. So 1 2 3 4 5, into the 6th I'm going to go with a double crochet, chain 3, and an additional double crochet, all into that same stitch. From here on, you're going to chain 3, 1 2 3 4 5, into the 6th stitch you're going to go with a double crochet, chain 3 again, and an additional double crochet. And this is what you're going to repeat for the entire row. So right here I'm coming to the very end. I have 2 more stitches, but because I have 2 more, I cannot go into the next 6 because I don't have 6. I'm going to just go ahead and chain 3. To end of the row, I'm going to go into this set of 6 chains we did at the very beginning. Counting from the root, 1 2 3, I'm going to go into that 3rd one and slip stitch. So right there I just finished my first row. So for the next row, what you're going to do, you're going to go ahead and chain 3, and right into this V-stitch you're going to go ahead and insert 5 double crochets. So 1 2 3 4 5 double crochets, all into that. And again, the chain 3 we just did at the beginning is a double crochet stitch, so in total we have 6 double crochets. And into this chain 3 space I'm going to go ahead and single crochet. Right after, into this next V-stitch I'm going to insert 6 double crochets, all into that same stitch, all into the same available space. And right there afterwards, I'm going to go into this chain 3 space with a single crochet, and of course into the next V-stitch I'm going to go with 6 double crochets as well. And this is honestly what I'm going to repeat for this entire row, and the lower part of this pattern is complete. And to end of the row, you're just going to find the 3rd chain, and you're going to go into the 3rd chain and slip stitch. And that is basically how you do a very nice edging for the edge of your dress. So now guys, now that we finished the lower part, we are going to get started with the upper part. Again, you guys already did see, you've seen what it looks like, but this is the working process, which means I am confused as hell. I just went through my phone and see what the initial design is gonna be, because I wanted to make a very cute corset dress, but you guys know I am a little bit busty above, which means I kind of need to play around, because most of the corset stuff that are out there, they don't really come in a size for us busty, especially when you want a full coverage, and I always want a full coverage around my boobs area. So now we are going to just manipulate our way around it with stitches. Hopefully I can get this done with the way I just imagined everything in my head. If it doesn't work out, I'm just gonna find a way to edit this video so you guys don't get confused just the same way I'm confused at the moment. But yeah, let me not make this too long. I'm gonna grab my measurement tape and show you guys the next set of measurements that you will be needing, because now we're going to work out the upper part of this outfit. Once you have your measurement tape, you're going to, again, the corset or the dress at this point should fit from this side, from your underbust up until your desired length. So which means the next measurement we are going to be taking is going to be from the underbust upwards, right? And again, like I said, because I do want this entire side of my bust to be locked in, I am kind of going to go ahead and take my bust measurement. So I'm just going to grab the measurement tape, pass this around my boobs, just so I know what my exact bust measurement is at the moment. And currently it's 36 and a half, sorry, 36 and a half inches. The next measurement I'm going to need is going to be my shoulder. For my shoulder, sorry guys, my neighbors are passing by, so it's a bit noisy. But the next measurement I'm going to need is going to be for my shoulders up until my underbust, because again this is going to be the next leg, but it's going to be two different measurements. So you're going to need your shoulder up until this part of your boobs, basically where this ends, right before you get to the upper part. So you're going to need the measurement from here to this end, and then the measurement from here to your underbust. So just so you guys know, I'm going to start at the shoulders, and then right where my armpit, I usually just mark the armpit area right there, and that is where I'm going to mark, and that is 8 inches. And right from there I'm just going to still leave the measurement tape, and I'm going to just measure right above, not the side, but I'm gonna go right above and up until my underbust area, which is exactly this end, and that is a total of 16 and a half. So basically from here to here is 8 inches, and from here to here is 16 and a half inches, which means from here to here is 8 and a half inches, while from here to here is 8 inches. Hopefully that makes sense. So those are the two measurements that I think you're going to be needing. If there's anything else that is needed, I'm gonna let you guys know later on. So this is where we're going to leave it at for now. What I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to start working on the upper part, and to do that I'm going to switch back to the white, or to the off-white. This is not even white, and I'm going to be using my 2.5, the same one that I used for the waistband, because the upper part has to be tight while the lower part of it is going to be free. So now you're going to go ahead and measure this part of the circumference of this upper part. So I'm going to start from one end and make my way to the opposite end. So right here I have my 0, and I'm just carefully just going to measure around the entire area of this. Seven, and then up to this place 22, and I'm just carefully going to do that until I get to the end. So at the end I have 28 inches, but again, because this doesn't have enough stretch to it, because this is the cotton yarn, let's just assume that this is 30 inches and not 28. But if you're using acrylic yarn, then you can get a good stretch, which means you probably don't have to do the next step that we're going to do, but you're just going to measure around and make sure that measurement is your bust measurement. So my bust measurement, like I mentioned earlier, was 36 and a half inches, if I'm not mistaken. So this in total, we're just going to assume this is 30 inches, because again, it doesn't have enough room for the stretchiness, but there is something there. So we're just going to assume that is up to 2 inches, sorry, which makes it up to 30 inches in total, because the measurement around without being stretched is 28. So now, which means I'm actually missing 6.5 inches for the bust area. Again, because I'm going to switch to acrylic yarn for this, and I probably don't need to do a lot of increasing, because acrylic yarn automatically stretches way more compared to cotton yarn. And also because I want this part of I want it to be fitted, super fitted, that I don't have to think about putting on a bra. That's the goal for it, because if it's too loose I eventually have to, but if it's tight, and because we're going to add zipper at the very end, we are going to be on the safe side. So I'm just going to grab the yarn and I'm going to attach that to one side of the panel, so the one edge of the panel, and I'm going to go ahead and make a secure knot. And from here on, I'm going to just go ahead and do my first row, which is going to be a base row. So I'm going to grab the yarn, chain 1, and I'm going to go into every available space around the circumference of this edge with 1 single crochet. Also, I wouldn't say you should be super careful with not increasing, but at the same time, this is just a base row, which means you don't have to do an increase. You're just going to insert 1 single crochet into every available space. Because on the next row we are going to go ahead and increase at that row, but for this row you don't have to do increase. Just insert 1 single crochet, just the way I'm doing. You want to make sure there is no gap, but at the same time you're not going into one stitch with 2 single crochets like I almost did right there. So you're just going to insert 1 single crochet all around, and I'll see you guys at the end. So after working your way to the very end of the row, you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And now we are going to do something a bit different. So I would suggest you grab a stitch marker, because we would need to mark the 2 sides so we know where the back panel is going to be and where the front panel is going to be. Remember, I did mention that the back panel that we worked does actually move up to the front, because we did not divide. We did divide it directly, but then some parts of this is what I mean. So the seam area is literally right here, but then you can see that the back panel does work its way up to that point. So what I would suggest you do is just lay your panel very flat, and then just make sure everything aligns well, so you can actually identify where the sides are going to be. And in my case, it's going to be right here and right there. So I'm going to grab 2 stitch marker, and I'm going to mark these 2 sides. Now that my stitch is marked and I know the 2 sides, which means from this end to this end, forward is going to be my front panel, wherein from this stitch marker to the edge, and from this stitch marker to the edge is going to be my back panel. The reason why we're marking that is because we are going to do increasing, but the increasing is going to be done just at the very front of the panel and not the back, because this is where we need a ruffle so it can actually fit your boobs. So again, if you're big busted, this is going to help you to get a full coverage, but at the same time you're going to get it fitted as well. We are not going to be doing any increasing at the back panel, because the back panel, again, your back is super straight. So if you have broad shoulders, then I'll suggest you do, but I don't think there's any need for that. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go ahead and start the row, and then when I get to the stitch marker, we are going to increase. But just so I can show you guys exactly, instead of talking, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm just going to go into this very first stitch with a double crochet and work my way up until the stitch marker with 1 double crochet into every stitch. So right there, I just inserted my last double crochet into that stitch marker, right? So I'm just going to take off the stitch marker, and I'm going to mark that stitch just so I am up to date with the rows. So I'm just going to mark that stitch, which means that is going to be the marker, which means from the next into the next rows I'm going to be going ahead with increasing. So now that I have that stitch marked, which means from now on I'm going to increase up until the next stitch marker. And for the increase pattern, I'm just going to go ahead and insert 2 double crochet into every stitch. So basically inserting 2 double crochet into every stitch all around until I get to the next stitch marker. Right there. Guys, so right here I'm at the end of my increase, so I'm going to go into that very stitch, which is the stitch marker stitch, with just a double crochet, which means from there on up until the very edge I'm going to go with a double crochet. Keep in mind that this increase pattern is just for 1 row, so for the next row I'm just going to go into every stitch with 1 double crochet, which means I would not be needing the stitch markers anymore. And when I get to the center piece again, I'm just going to go with 1 double crochet into every stitch. So basically no increase. The increasing is only going to be done at the very first row. I also wanted to mention that because of the difference between my bust and my waist measurement, that is the reason why I did 2 double crochet increase, because I feel like it just makes up for the measurement difference between my bust and my waist. So if your measurement difference is not so wide, then you don't have to do this pattern again. Like I mentioned, just measure around that area and see what the difference is, so you don't have to do that. But again, if you have a huge difference just like me, then I'll suggest you do. But again, if your difference is also way wider compared to mine, you honestly just have to play around with it. I am making this pattern as I go, which means I work on measurement base if you've seen all of my tutorials, because that's the easiest way for me to just show you guys how you can manipulate and play around with making this for any size at all. So if you get lost along the way and you have questions, let me know and I'll find a way to explain that or give you tips on how you can achieve this for your own size. But I'm just going to repeat the row until I get to the very end of the row, and I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to repeat this. Remember, my measurement is basically 8.5 inches, which you guys did see I measured earlier. So I'm going to do this until I have 8.5 inches. Maybe I'll do about 7 inches because I would not want it to be super high, but I'll just put this on as I go, just to make sure I have the perfect length that I'm going for before we start working on the straps. So we are going to, I still need to attach the zipper, so for that reason I had to go at the back, and then I attached some stitch markers just so I can have the vision of the dress right before I start with the straps. I wanted to get the straps done so I can actually get the full step, so when the zipper actually arrives I'm just going to install it. I do not want to waste time, so I'm just going to show you guys what we're going to do for the strap. Again, you're going to repeat the same step until you have the length that you're going for. And I think so I did this much for the upper length, so I did about 5.5 inches, but because again this is an acrylic yarn, it will eventually stretch up until 8.5 inches, which is perfect for me. So if I was using the cotton yarn, I would have just made exactly the same length, but because I know this is an acrylic yarn, and I do again for the fitting want this to fit super well, so I decided to go for 5.5 instead of the initial measurement, which was 8.5 inches. I am still going to use the white yarn, and I'm still going to use the 2.5 for the straps. So what you're going to do in this case is you can put this on, which I already did, and I decided where the measurement my straps are going to eventually fall. I did forget to mark that with a stitch marker, but in case you're not in a position to put this on, I'm going to show you guys how I identify whether I want my straps to be. So again, you're going to just make sure you align everything well and make sure that the pieces are just exactly where they need to be, right? And then when you have that done, I usually just take my armpit hole measurements, like from my armpit up until where my bra strap usually falls is about 5 inches on my body. So that's what I'm going to measure from the side when I have my pieces aligned well. So from the side 5 inches, I'm going to just measure that, and it should be around there. But because we have like this girders around here, you want to make sure you do that as well, because the front part has an increase, which means you're going to have this girders around that part of your body. But I'm just going to measure this, make sure I line that well, and I'm going to measure 5 inches from the side inwards, 5 inches from the side inwards, and I know that is where my stitch marker is going to fall on my body. After you play around with how you want the girders to be, you're just going to roughly take the measurement 5 inches, and 5 inches to actually be there, and I'm going to mark this. Again, if you straighten this, I think it should be above 5 inches, but because there is going to be that out as well, you want to make sure it's not straightened, because it's not going to be straightened on your body. So 5 inches basically stops right there, but I did mark there because when you play around with the ruffles at the very top, it should leave you there with 5 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well. So you're just going to just play around with the way you want the ruffles to actually fall on your body. And you're going to take the measurement from the side 5 inches inwards, and right here it's going to be on this side. Now that I have that stitch marked as well, you can go ahead and count the stitches from this edge to this edge and from this edge to this edge, just so you have the same amount, but I don't think there will be need for it. Also, you can go ahead and check the stitches in between this, but also that's just if you want to cross check, which I don't really think there will be need for it. So now we're going to start with the straps, and to do that you're just going to attach your yarn on one side of the mark panel. So the mark where you marked with your stitch marker, you're going to attach your yarn right into that stitch and make a secure knot. And afterwards, remember the measurement for my shoulders up until my armpit was 8 inches. So I'm just going to make a chain that is 8 inches long. But you also want to keep in mind that this is an acrylic yarn, and if you want the straps to literally fit your shoulders so perfectly, you want to make sure that you are stretching the yarn as you go while you're taking the measurement of the length. Now that I have my 8 inches of chain, we are going to just turn this to the back. We are going to just turn this to the back and attach this to the back right there, which is going to give us the strap fit. You want to make sure you straighten your chain, and then when your chain is straightened, you're just going to align that to the back, which is basically where it falls at the back, and you're going to go ahead and slip stitch that into the back stitch. And from there on, you're going to chain one and go into every chain with 1 half double crochet. You're going to go into this first chain with 1 half double crochet and just repeat 1 half double crochet until you get to the very top. So right here I just finished my half double crochet row, so we're going to go back into that very side with a single crochet. So to do that, you're going to, again, you want to make sure your strap is straightened. You guys can see that this strap is super short because I want it to fit my shoulders perfectly. You want to make sure your strap is straightened, and you're going to go, after your last half double crochet into that stitch, you're going to go into that same base stitch where you attach the yarn with a single crochet, with a slip stitch, sorry. You're going to slip stitch right there, and afterwards you're going to chain one and turn, and this time around you're going to go back into the strap with 1 single crochet. So you're going to just turn, and right into this very first half double crochet, you're going to go into the back loop with a single crochet, and the back loop is basically the last loop into that 2 set loops, and you're going to go and repeat 1 single crochet until you get to the very top of the loop. You're going to just make sure you work your way up until that very base, and right into that very base. I'm going to not go into that base because this is the second row. I'm going to go into the next available space with a slip stitch to end of the row, and right there you just ended off the row. So we're going to do something a bit different. I do want to attach another single crochet on the opposite side, so in that case I will have 3 rows, 1 half double crochet in the center and 2 single crochets at the sides. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just chain 1 and cut off this yarn. And after cutting the yarn off, I'm just going to go ahead and reattach the yarn onto the side. So again, you have the base yarn, and because we're going to add a row, you're going to go into the next available stitch and not the base stitch where you attach the yarn. And now you're going to reattach your yarn with a knot and just make sure it's secure. And from there on, you're going to go ahead and grab the yarn, chain 1, and you're just going to work your way into this very first half double crochet stitch on the strap with 1 half double crochet, with 1 single crochet, sorry, with 1 single crochet, and you're going to repeat 1 single crochet up until the very top. And because there is no back loop in this side of the pattern, you're just going to do 1 single crochet into every stitch up until you get to the very end of the strap. And this is going to thicken the strap and make sure it's not a thin strap. If you don't want to do this process, you honestly don't have to, but I just wanted my strap to be a little bit more thin and not just a 1/over strap. And also, you're just going to make sure you repeat that until you get to the very end, and then to end off the row, you're going to go into the next available stitch in this base, and you're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that. And right there you have your strap complete. Let me show you guys what it looks like fully. Yes, so right there you have your strap complete. So what we're going to do now, we're going to work our way up until the opposite side, but then you're going to cut off the yarn and you're going to reattach your yarn right there. Hey guys, so this is what you're going to, I'm basically going to repeat the same exact step on the opposite side of the panel, and I'll see you guys when I have my 2 straps and my 2 straps complete actually. Hey guys, so I finished the 2 straps. I was actually going to do a finishing around the top and then attach the zipper, but then I realized that the zipper that I actually had was not too long, so I had to order another one, which came in because I'm editing the video to this, so it actually came in today, and then it's actually the wrong size. So I decided I mistakenly ordered the zipper in centimeters and not in inches, and because I use inches for my tutorials, I just forgot the fact that in the Netherlands they do centimeter, they use centimeters. So if you want to buy something, you have to use centimeters. So I have to order another one, which I already did today, and that is hopefully going to come in tomorrow, so I can actually film that step. So I'm going to do that step separately in part 2. So that's the end of this video. I'll see you guys at part 2. Hopefully I should get that video done in 2 days, right before after this video. So I'll see you guys in part 2, where we're going to attach the zipper and put the actual rest on so we can see what it looks like. So ciao ciao.